Memphis, 1954. The air crackled with something the world had never heard before, a sound so raw, so dangerous, so impossibly divine, that even the angels leaned closer to listen. In a tiny recording studio on Union Avenue, a 19-year-old truck driver with trembling hands was about to split history in two. They said he moved like sin and sang like salvation. They called him the King, but the truth was far more extraordinary. This is the story of how a boy from Tupelo became a bridge between two worlds, how rebellion found redemption, and how one voice changed everything. Because when thunder met grace, the universe held its breath. Elvis Aaron Presley first heard music the way most people see lightning, sudden, illuminating, impossible to ignore. Born in a two-room shotgun house in Tupelo, Mississippi, he arrived into poverty so complete it seemed like prophecy. His twin brother, Jesse Garon, was stillborn, leaving Elvis alone with a peculiar gift and an even more peculiar burden. He could hear his brother singing, not at least. That's what he told his mother Gladys late at night when she found him humming harmonies to songs nobody else could hear. She never dismissed him. In the Presley household, faith wasn't just Sunday morning ritual, it was the oxygen they breathed. The Assembly of God Church on Adams Street became young Elvis's conservatory, where Pentecostal fervor met gospel fire and created something that would later make the whole world move. Gladys was fierce in her devotion to her surviving son, perhaps too fierce. She walked him to school long past the age when other boys went alone. She made his clothes, pressed his lunch, and whispered prayers over his restless sleep. Vernon, his father, loved him too, but Vernon was often gone working, looking for work, or serving time for forging a check to buy groceries. Poverty wasn't just their circumstance. It was their inheritance, but Elvis had something poverty couldn't touch. When he sang in church, grown men wept. When he hummed while working odd jobs, strangers stopped to listen. His voice carried something ancient and new simultaneously, the ache of field hollers, the yearning of blues, the promise of something nobody had named yet. 13. His family moved to Memphis, cramming into a public housing project in a black neighborhood where music poured from every window. Here, young Elvis would stand for hours outside clubs on Beale Street, absorbing rhythms that white boys weren't supposed to hear, let alone feel. He listened to B.B. King, to gospel quartets, to the raw Delta blues that spoke of pain and transcendence in the same breath. His classmates at Humes High School thought he was strange, too polite, too pretty, too poor. He wore his hair long and greased it into a ducktail. He dressed flashy when he could afford it, thrift store bold. He was searching for something, though he couldn't name it yet. Not fame, not fortune. Something deeper. A way to merge all the music inside him, the sacred and the profane, the black and the white, the thunder and the grace. When he graduated in 1953, he took a job driving trucks for Crown Electric Company. $19 a week. But in his pocket, he carried a secret. He'd been saving money to record a song for his mother's birthday at Sun Records. $4 for 2 songs. It seemed like nothing. It was everything. Sam Phillips had a theory that bordered on obsession. If he could find a white man who sang with the feeling of black gospel and blues, he could change the world. He'd built Sun Records on Union Avenue with borrowed money and borrowed time, recording black artists that major labels ignored: Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, Junior Parker. Brilliant music that barely paid the rent. Then, on a sweltering July afternoon in 1954, everything changed. Elvis had returned to Sun Records, not to record for his mother this time, but because receptionist Marion Kiesker remembered something extraordinary about the nervous kid who'd come in months before. Sam Phillips decided to give him a chance with 2 session musicians, Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass. For hours, nothing worked. Elvis tried ballads, tried standards, tried everything he knew. Sam kept saying, "It's not right yet. Keep going." The session felt like failure. During a break, frustrated and exhausted, Elvis picked up his guitar and started goofing around with an old blues number, Arthur Crawdad's song about a rabbit running through a briar patch. But what came out wasn't blues, wasn't country, wasn't gospel. It was something else entirely. Scotty and Bill looked at each other, then joined in. A tiny studio suddenly felt enormous. Sam Phillips burst out of the control room. "What are you doing?" Elvis stopped, worried he'd done something wrong. "Don't stop," Sam shouted. "That's it. That's the sound." They recorded the song that night. When it played on Memphis radio station WHBQ, the phone lines exploded. Listeners wanted to know, who was this? What race was he? Where did this sound come from? The DJ played it 14 times in a row, unable to satisfy demand, but success brought scrutiny. When Elvis performed at the Overton Park show weeks later, something happened that nobody anticipated. As he sang, his legs started shaking, nervous energy finding release. The crowd of young women erupted, screamed, wept, rushed the stage. Elvis didn't understand what was happening. He was just singing, just letting the music move through him the way it always had. But to them, he looked like liberation itself. The older generation saw something else, danger. Here was a white boy moving like black performers, singing with raw sexuality that challenged every social boundary. They called it vulgar, obscene, race-mixing, the devil's music. Ministers preached against him. Parents forbade their daughters from listening, which, of course, only made him more irresistible to the youth who felt trapped in the suffocating conformity of post-war America. Elvis himself remained bewildered by the controversy. He was religious, polite, called everyone sir and ma'am. He loved his parents, especially his mother. He didn't drink or smoke. How could moving to music be sinful? How could joy be dangerous? But Sam Phillips understood what Elvis didn't yet. They hadn't just made a hit record. They'd opened a door that could never close. The thunder had announced itself, and grace would follow, whether the world was ready or not. By 1956, Elvis belonged to everyone and no one. Colonel Tom Parker, a carnival huckster turned manager, had seized control of his career with contracts that would prove devastating. RCA Records bought his contract from Sun for an unprecedented $35,000. Television wanted him. Movies wanted him. America wanted him, even as it denounced him. His first appearance on national television, the Dorsey Brothers stage show, should have been terrifying. Instead, it was transcendent. 50 million people watched a young man from Mississippi sing with such conviction, such raw presence, that the medium itself seemed too small to contain him. Ed Sullivan, who'd sworn he'd never have Elvis on his show, broke his promise after seeing the ratings. When Elvis appeared on Sullivan's show, 70 million Americans tuned in, 82% of the viewing public, but they only showed him from the waist up. Too dangerous otherwise. Too provocative. The irony wasn't lost on Elvis. They wanted his voice, his face, his charm, but not the full truth of how the music moved through him. The money poured in. Gold records accumulated. Graceland, the mansion he bought for his parents in Memphis, became both sanctuary and prison. Gladys, his beloved mother, hated it. Too big, too empty, too far from the intimacy of poverty they'd once shared. She started drinking, started withdrawing. The bond between mother and son, once so tight it seemed mystical, began to strain under the weight of fame neither of them had wanted. Elvis threw himself into work to escape the sadness. Movies shallow, forgettable films that paid fortunes but demanded nothing of his actual talent. The Colonel controlled everything. What he sang, where he performed, what he said in interviews. Elvis, who'd once been pure instinct and innovation, became a product. A brand. The thunder was being tamed. Then came the draft notice. March 1958. The Army wanted him, and the colonel saw opportunity. Military service would cleanse Elvis's dangerous image, make him acceptable to mainstream America. Elvis went willingly, even proudly. He refused special treatment, served as a regular soldier in Germany, drove trucks just like he had in Memphis. But while he was overseas, Gladys's health collapsed. Hepatitis, brought on by alcoholism and grief. Elvis got emergency leave and rushed home. He held his mother's hand in the hospital, begging her to fight, to stay. She died on August 14, 1958. Elvis wept so violently at her funeral that men had to hold him up. Something inside him died that day too, the innocent boy who sang because joy demanded it. What returned from Germany in 1960 would be different, more guarded, more controlled. The Grace is being buried under gold records and movie contracts. The 1960s were cruel to Elvis. While the world exploded with British invasion bands and social revolution, the king made forgettable movies with forgettable songs. His relevance faded. Critics called him a relic. The thunder had become an echo, the Grace a memory. Colonel Parker kept him in golden handcuffs, extracting maximum profit while minimizing risk. No tours, no challenges. Just 3 movies a year, and soundtrack albums nobody respected. By 1968, Elvis hadn't performed live in 7 years. He was 33 years old and felt ancient. He'd watched the Beatles and Rolling Stones on television with a mixture of admiration and despair. This was the music he'd helped birth, and he'd been exiled from it. Priscilla, his wife, saw the light fading from his eyes. His friends worried. The world had moved on. Then television producer Steve Binder proposed something radical, a comeback special. 1-hour live performance. Return to basics. The colonel wanted a Christmas special safe, sanitized, profitable. But Binder and Elvis had other plans. They would strip everything away and find the original fire, or die trying. The 68 comeback special was recorded in June before a live studio audience. Elvis wore black leather, dangerous, sexual, confident. He sat in the round with his original musicians, Scotty Moore and others from the early days. No scripts, no safety net, just music. When the cameras rolled, something miraculous happened. The thunder returned. Elvis sang with a ferocity that shook the industry. He moved like he had in 1954, but with the weight of experience behind it. He joked with the audience, told stories, and performed with such raw honesty that even the cynics were converted. The show climaxed with a new song, a message of hope and determination that felt like both prayer and prophecy. 50 million people watched. The ratings were spectacular. Critics who'd written him off were forced to reconsider. The comeback wasn't just successful, it was a resurrection. Elvis was relevant again, powerful again, necessary again. Emboldened, he returned to live performance. In July 1969, he opened at the International Hotel in Las Vegas for a month-long residency. Opening night, he was so nervous he could barely speak. But when he started singing, the years fell away. He commanded that stage with the presence of someone who'd finally remembered who he was. The thunder and Grace had found each other again. The early 1970s saw some of his greatest performances. The Aloha from Hawaii concert in 1973 was broadcast via satellite to over 1 billion people worldwide. He wore a white jumpsuit adorned with eagles and gems, part superhero, part shaman. His voice was still magnificent, his presence still undeniable, but the damage was done. Years of exploitation, poor management, and personal loss had taken their toll. Prescription drugs, initially for insomnia and anxiety, became dependencies. His health deteriorated. The performances remained powerful, but they cost him more each time. He was giving everything to audiences who loved him, but there was nothing left for himself. The thunder was consuming the grace from within. Elvis Presley died on August 16, 1977, at Graceland. He was 42 years old. The official cause was heart failure, but the truth was more complex. A brilliant artist destroyed by the machinery of fame. By poor choices, by the weight of being more than human to millions, while remaining painfully, vulnerably human underneath. But here's what they don't tell you in the documentaries. His music never died. Not really. Every genre that came after rock, soul, pop, hip-hop carries his DNA. Every artist who ever used their voice to bridge divides, to challenge boundaries, to merge the sacred and profane, walks paths he cleared. The thunder still echoes. The grace still saves. Graceland receives over 600,000 visitors annually. People from every nation, every background, every generation. They come to pay respects, yes, but they come for something more, to touch the place where an impossible dream became real, where a poor boy's voice reminded the world that greatness doesn't require permission, only courage. When thunder met grace, the world changed forever. The question is, what will you do with the lightning he left behind? Want to explore more untold stories of music legends who changed the world? Subscribe to discover the extraordinary humanity behind the icons we thought we knew.